Hi, I'm Shane Bradt from the University of New Hampshire. I work at Cooperative Extension as my primary job, and I also have affiliations with the Department of Biological Sciences and Geography. And my background is cyanobacteria, limnology, but also my day job is teaching people how to do mapping and also looking at how to share information online. So thinking about how you track and watch and report on blooms or cyanobacteria kind of marries both of the main thrust of what it is that I do. So the presentation will largely be focused on this app, bloomWatch, but also towards the end, especially just talk a little bit about the Cyanobacteria Monitoring Collaborative in general and how we hope potentially to connect people with us and also to learn more from other folks. So if you've ever seen presentations that I or Hillary have given, I feel like we both, other people have, including I thought I saw Linda Green come in. She also gave presentations, and we talk about these 3 pillars, and our website talks about 3 different approaches. And in some ways, those are old-fashioned in that it really is we're talking about, and with other people, it's a combination of different approaches that you use in order to effectively be able to respond to situations. But one of them that came up really early on was the idea of how do we get people to easily be able to report blooms that they're seeing. And it was very much structured with the idea that anybody should be able to use it as long as they had a smartphone. And even back when this idea first came out, a lot of people had smartphones, and now not everybody, but nearly everybody has one. So the idea behind this, and this is a shot from a poster that I created that I and Hillary I know have used in a variety of places. And the idea is that if you had an app that you could use to take pictures and get a little bit of information about the lake and have that app share that information with a group of people, that there would be interesting insights that could potentially be gained. And so whenever you set out to try to do a project like this, and from a lot of my effort recently in my job in cooperative extension has been trying to see how can you collect information and then make it available for people. The idea was, well, there are a variety of ways, but what if we had an app that was very specifically just focused on doing this well? Instead of trying to have a larger app that does a whole bunch of things and, oh yes, you can also report blooms, partially because other apps were more complex and difficult to use, and also because we wanted it to be possible that, yes, researchers could install this and use it, but it could also be that anybody who lives on a lake or goes on a lake without having a lot of technical knowledge or is investing a whole bunch of time or energy could install it and be able to, within a few minutes, say, here's a bloom, take a picture, and then send it on its way. And so that very early version, you can see this is in test flight, which means that this was the experimental version. We thought long and hard, I remember many discussions of what could you ask that might be useful and what would people be willing to put up with. So we did come down to at least some things that we hoped would be useful in trying to maybe get an idea about the blooms and that we thought people would be able to answer quickly. And then we really thought through, well, how do you then structure it? So can we get multiple photos? Do we have a description? Can we give even little suggestions about the types of pictures we want to take? And so this app was designed. And there is a web page on cyanos.org or a section dedicated just to the app itself to talk about what is it, how does it work, and the hope, pretty straightforward, is that you download the app. It's on iOS and Android. Also that you would then be able to see the blooms. Now, this is always the fun part of any data collection, and people wave the citizen science and the crowdsource flag, and it's great. But the question, of course, is, well, then what do you do with the data? Who looks at it? How is it useful? Like, what is that person motivated? Why are they going to do this? And so the idea was it needed to be available for people to see, and also it wanted to be in concert with, or at least not in opposition to, what was already going on in the various states. So that's one of the things, even from the early part of the app, was talking with different states and saying, this is happening, we have this app, people might be using it, like how can we make sure you also see this data, so that it's not just being reported over here on an app and then not being reported in your system. Like, tell us how it can work to serve both purposes. And a few years ago, for the North American Lake Management Society, I, in partnership with Angela Chambon and some other folks, worked on the NOMS web pages on this topic, and we created an interactive map that looked at all of the different state and provincial, so it was US and Canada programs. And I did notice, because I went to every single one of the pages that were suggested, and even some I found that weren't. And bloomWatch was suggested on, I don't think it was 6 or 7 different state websites as the way that they suggested people submit data, which I thought was exciting and interesting. So one of the changes that's happened in recent times is that it has now been sort of transitioned from where it was first developed to now being an official under the EPA umbrella. So this is just a quick screenshot I even took today of the web page for bloomWatch on the iOS store, or so the Apple store for iOS, and then on Google Play for Android. So it now has advanced. If it's not tremendously different in a lot of ways than it was initially, because I think we did a fairly good job of thinking through it. But of course, even an app over time, you have to update to keep relevant and working. And we have done some streamlining and things along the way. Just as a brief, quick tour for people who don't know how it works, when you first start, there's just some basic information that we put together about what are blooms, what do they look like, what does this app do. One time you fill out some basic information about yourself, just so we have an idea who's filling it out. And then on a given day, these are pretty much the features. You pick the name of the lake, say the town and the state, and then you answer just a few questions. And then it leads you through. It would be great if you took more than one picture. We'd love 3, but at least 1. It even says photograph of the aerial extent of the bloom, and gives you a chance to make little notes. So it leads you through that. And then at the end, there's 2 different ways that you submit the data. So one of those is that you submit it by clicking on upload data. And that takes that information and then sends it to that central database, and also gives you the chance to email. So when you click on email data, it then launches your email program, assuming you have an email app on your phone, pre-populates it with that bloomWatch at epa.gov, and then also allows you to put in any email addresses that you want, because it's just in the normal email application. Bundles together with the data that's inside of the app, and then also attaches your pictures. So you can upload it to share it, and you can also email that information to anyone that you'd like to share specifically. So that was an important thing, to have both of those options. We have, in partnership with the EPA, name is failing me right now, has created a few sort of how-to videos that we have on the website that leads people step by step. We hope it's not difficult to use, but also we wanted it to be even easier. So in the app, it refers to it, and on the website, it's there. The other thing, of course, is if you collect the data, then how do you see it? What do you do with it? And one of the big changes that we have now, and I think this is version, if I'm not wrong, I think it's 4.6. So there's been many iterations of the app, is that up until recently, the data were populated or were hosted or sent to this bloomWatch project on citsci.org. And so it was a way that we would allow people to go look at the data, see it, view it, download it. You could even have your data from the outside and upload it directly in. But for a variety of reasons, we decided to make a switch, and it's instead being hosted at the University of New Hampshire now through our ArcGIS online organization. So anybody who really cares about that, not going into any details, feel free to join the discussion and we can talk more about it. But it was something that I had never done. I know that the app developer Tad had also never done, but we got it to work where the app now speaks directly to our ArcGIS Online account. And what that's going to allow us to do, I hope, and this is not public yet, but it's very close to being public, is to be able to give people ways to explore the data. And don't look too carefully at the names on here because they're not actual reports, but the current app as it is, if you have version 4.6, it's sending the data out to our organization inside of UNH. And one of the things I've been doing a lot over the past year for my job of teaching people online mapping, but also in response to COVID and working with various partners, is learning a lot more how to create interactive online maps that are filterable and that you could explore the data. So this is just a static screenshot, but the idea is that when you go onto this dashboard, you can zoom into different parts of the map and that the information about surface conditions, weather conditions, bloom extent, the date, report date graph, all of the listings over on the left, those are all updated, not only by the zoom of the map, but also by which options you choose. So if you click on, I want to see only the place where the bloom extent was between a football field and a tennis court, then it will filter and automatically all of the information will change to show you only the points that meet whatever it is, only the bloom reports that meet whatever options you've chosen. And then when you click on an individual report, you can see this report from Lake Beazig Middlefield was selected, then the pictures that were taken show up down where it says bloom photos. So this is just the first version, I think, beta or about to be released when we make sure that I was working on it recently, getting all of the data from CitSci into here. But I looked today and there were 4 reports from Venice, Italy, that somebody sent using the app, and they were showing up on this map. So the cool and exciting thing to me is that it's a marriage of a lot of different parts of my work and life that are of interest. It helps hopefully to have bloomWatch work better and possibly be more useful. But the real thing I'm interested in is how do you then explore the data? Having a bunch of points on a map, like in citsci.org or a Google map, it's okay, but then how do you ask questions of it? How do you start selectively filtering and looking for patterns? If you have other information about those blooms potentially, like how do you bring that in and start to look at it? And while I do realize that there are very specific statistical techniques, and this falls short of that, this allowing people to see their data and explore it and look at very discrete portions of it, like what about our lake in this year, or what about in our lake since last Tuesday, will be much more powerful than just having all of the data shown on the map. And also the hope is that now that it's in something like ArcGIS Online, there are folks at the EPA who use this software called Click, and hopefully it will be easier to share the data with other people as well. And possibly even combine data from different places onto this, not necessarily this map, but to bring data from a variety of places together onto a map. So we're at the very beginning of this. I think the version that works this way went live, I don't know when it was published, maybe a month ago or something. And in any case, we are going to see how it goes and are very open to having anybody be able to give us feedback. So this is when this change happens, which will be very soon. It will also be updated on the website. Right now, the links go to the new app for you to download so you can update it. Now you'll get the current version, but this map and things are still not quite public, but they will be soon. And then just as sort of a parting thought, and I see that John might have just joined, so maybe we can transition over to him after this, is that we had hoped this, I remember the beginning of what's now called the Cyanobacteria Monitoring Collaborative was, whereas, I don't know, maybe 20-ish people sitting around a room in Chelmsford, Mass, the EPA regional lab, talking about what could we do to work together and try to come up with some common cyanobacteria monitoring techniques or approaches that we could use across the region, since the New England is the region 1 of the EPA, and even folks from the farthest away state office can get to the same place in 3-ish hours. And since then, it's gone through a lot of different changes and more people are involved and who to say is part of the collaborative. But the idea is that it's supposed to be a way that people can share information. And this conference, which now has many more people than the one that we had last year, is one of the ways that we're hoping to make that connection. Since this is virtual and people are used to virtual, hopefully there won't be just one conference a year, but there'll be a conference and other opportunities, even if they're much shorter and much more focused, for people to get together and share information. We do have a listserv, which for people who still want to be on listservs and like to email, there's that option that's on our website. For people in the social media world, we do have a Facebook and a Twitter account. We're trying to get that as a way for people to, get connected and connect with us. We do have the blog, and since you're all here, you've seen the blog, but the idea is to post things more regularly than the normal website. And we're also experimenting with ideas like Teams and different sorts of things that people would use to connect in a different way. So we're very much open to having people participate, learning from other people, and trying to find ways that are easier for people to connect. So feel free about any of these ideas or topics to reach out to me. And the website, which you all know anyway, but it's cyanos.org and cyanos.org/bloomwatch, or by clicking on the bloomwatch at the top will bring you to the app.